Hello everybody, Mobius1 here, along with fellow gamer Reese. Reese, go ahead and say hi.
I'm here.
And we are bringing you a continuation of the Jewel of Ryloth series that I started, I kid you not, 7 months ago, easily. Maybe 8 by now, I don't even remember. This series, a friend of mine, Korosin, and I had started as it's a Star Wars role-playing game, so the tabletop Dungeons & Dragons, D20 style game, with a original campaign that I am currently still working on. And while we had fun with it, it kind of drifted away, and I've had a lot of people message me about it in the past, whether or not it was coming back or if it was over, and I promised that it would be back, that it was not dead, and here we are. So 7 months later, we're still going with this, and hopefully we'll be doing this much more frequently. Actually, I know we'll be doing this much more frequently because I already confirmed my third player. So hope you guys enjoy it. It's a little bit different than my usual content, but it's still Star Wars and it's still fun. So, like I said, here with fellow Reese. Reese, why don't you tell us a little bit about your character?
Yeah, sure. So my character's called Crosis, or Ethan Alenko. He was born on the planet Coruscant when the rebels took Endor, and then a few years later when they decided to ransack the city of Coruscant and basically take it over. His parents were killed in the first wave when the Imperial fleet was destroyed. So he decided to join up with the Imperial fleet and pretty much just served as a stormtrooper for a very long time. Then come the time when the Empire went to retake Coruscant. He then distinguished himself in this battle and was promoted to officer, and then quickly rose up the ranks due to his influence, due to his family. They were very wealthy, and there used to be nobles as well. So he then pretty much served the Empire for a very long time, way into the Imperial Remnant, and then unfortunately come a time when he decided that it was a fight that he was never going to win, and he decided to ask to leave the Empire. This naivety was pretty much his undoing when he went to see one of the Moths, who then granted him leave as long as he took one planet. When he arrived to the planet, he was actually met by 3 Star Destroyers, but they fired on his ship, and him and his men had to go down to the surface, where they spent around 3 months just trying to survive and hide from the Empire. So he survived with 2 of his crew members, Zed and Fuse. They then got onto a smuggler's ship and basically smuggled themselves off-world, where they then acquired that ship through certain means, and then decided to take up mercenary work. They did a few jobs where then they got work on a planet and tried to defend it against some bandits, but actually met Garrett, who was a Chiss, and decided to join up on their crew because he was actually I can't even speak. Basically, he was very good with technology, so they took him on board and have been cruising around the galaxy as hired guns.
And what was his name again?
Who?
The Chiss?
Garrett.
Alright, because actually I'm going to mark him. I have you and your 3 fellow companions are sitting at a table just above and to the right of the bar. So I marked him with a G. Did you have names for the other 2 guys?
Zed and Fuse.
Oh, sorry, that's right. And what would you say they're good at? Or do they have specializations?
Well, yeah, Fuse is engineered by heart. He can pretty much fix anything, and is pretty much the person who keeps our ship in the sky. And then Zed is just our heavy bruiser, as it were.
I'm sorry, so Fuse was the engineer?
Yes.
Okay, makes sense. Alright, well I marked each of them with the first letter of their name. Obviously the unmarked one with the blue stripe is going to be your character. Everyone else
Yep.
that you see on here is an NPC. Not necessarily hostile. I mean, as you can see, you're chilling at a bar, and I'll hit you with exactly what's going on in a minute. I do want to explain a little bit about the board, because there are a bunch of different colored lines on the board, and it can be a little confusing. First and foremost, the boxes outlined in green, and again, for those of you that are watching this series for the first time, we're using a program to simulate a tabletop game called Vassal. Again, I'll put a description or a link to this in the description if you guys want to check it out, but I also have a video on how to install it and set it up if you want to play around with it on your own. But this module we're using is actually designed for the Star Wars miniatures game, not the Star Wars role-playing game. So it's close enough to do with what we want it to do, but there are a couple like features and things that we don't necessarily care about. So the colored lines on here, they really mean different things for that game, but essentially we can use them for what we're doing also. So the green lines indicate cover or rough terrain. So you can move through green lined boxes that are outlined in green, but it's a little bit more difficult to move through that. So it might take you like two extra, like an extra movement space to like climb over it or something. But it also serves as cover for ranged combat. So, for instance, the bar, you can like hide behind the bar, and that would give you a defense bonus if someone were trying to shoot you. The yellow outlined squares are either like steps or ramps. You'll see like those are pretty much the only things on here that are yellow or stairs. The white dashed lines are doors, or not dashed lines, I guess they're solid lines. So just behind like Fuse and Garrett, you'll see there's the two white lines there. Those are doors leading to like a back storage room. However, if you look in the very southwest corner of the map, you'll see like these grayish black like squiggly lines that have kind of like blue. You know, I'll put a thing by him to mark them. You see like right where that droid is, the like squiggly thing. I don't have any real indication of what those are, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that they're like curtains, because they look like they should be doors, but they're not solid. So I think those are just like, you know, curtains that you could push through and hear through. They're not actually doors. But that's really all you need to know about the board. If you see a door, most doors in Star Wars, these included, usually just have a little panel next to them to press a button for them to open. Some of them might be locked, which will neither require a pass key, or perhaps if you would like to have someone use like a computer use skill on them, you might be able to slice them. But that's really all you need to know about the board.
So can you move diagonally?
Yes, so movement in this, every square is 2 meters, and a average-sized human has a movement speed of 10 meters, so in combat your movement speed is basically going to be 5 squares in any direction.
Okay.
Alright, and if you have any questions, don't worry about it. Also, you'll see that I have some units are not placed like appropriately in a square. That's because even though we're using a grid-style board for the game, we are still simulating a real world, so not everything is going to snap to the grid. So we can play around with the rules as long as it makes sense. And it helps everything look prettier. So, alright, we got your backstory. Why don't you, real quick, very last thing before we get started, is tell us exactly what class you're playing, and if you, I guess, what your basic equipment is already, that you're already, like, what are you already pocketing, I guess?
Okay, yeah, so I'm playing the standard soldier, and so for weaponry, I've got a heavy blaster. I've got some light armor, which is a blast helm. And let me just pull up my other equipment. And then the rest of my equipment, I've got 3 med packs, 3 med kits, or sorry, 2 med kits, a comlink, a breathe mask with 2 filters, and that pretty much covers it with just 950 credits to my name.
And you're a human, right? Because you were born and raised in the Empire?
Indeed, yep.
Alrighty.
Of course.
Alright, well, let's get going here. So, basically, you guys are hanging out in none other than the Mos Eisley Cantina. Good old Mos Eisley on Tatooine. So...
Where else?
Of course, though, this takes place many years after the movies. So, Mos Eisley is still more or less the same. Still a wretched hive of scum and villainy, but some things have changed. You may notice there's no stage for the Cantina band anymore. That's because they have a new electric system, and they actually have speakers that are playing music, but you may not have known that that's a new system. Anyway. So alright, so you guys just completed some mission, you know, got your pay since you got the whole Firefly thing going on. You know, working a job as long as it pays well, right?
Yep.
So you decided to kind of, you know, take a break in the Mos Eisley Cantina, have some drinks, and then maybe look around for another job. So you're chilling out. You're kind of in this little private lounge tucked away in the corner of the cantina here. You're kind of behind the bar. You can see 2 Trandoshans look very kind of menacingly, kind of looking at you from across the room, but they haven't made any aggressive motions towards you. They're also enjoying drinks behind the bar. It's very noisy up at the front end of the bar, but it's kind of quieter back here. The music isn't quite as loud, so you're still able to hear each other talk, even though you guys are kind of talking amongst each other at a low volume, not really whispering, but quiet enough that no one else can hear what you guys are saying. While Fuse is telling you, you know, some gadget idea that he came up with, 2 guys in very heavily, like, decked out gear. We're talking, like, maybe medium armor and, you know, 2 blasters, 1 in each hand, walk right past your booth. So they look like this. Walking from the front of the bar towards the back room, and as they walk past your bar, the one in trail makes a comment that he was actually speaking loud enough that you were able to clearly hear him say to his partner, "Come on, man, what kind of job pays more than 20 million credits?" And that's all you're able to hear as the 2 of them disappear into through the door leading into the back room of the cantina, and you hear the door close behind them.
Okay.
Everyone at your table goes silent, and they look at you to see how you react to what you just heard.
So, at first, I'm just trying to process the amount of money they just mentioned. Once I finally processed it, I kind of go to these guys like, 20 million credits.
They look at you and they're like, "Man, who were those guys?"
No clue. Looks like trouble. If we are to investigate this, I say we just take a little quick peek. Just remember, be careful. 20 million credits, that's more than we could ever dream of. I mean, we've been living off scraps for the past couple of months.
Sorry, I just got a message real quick on TeamSpeak. Yeah, so at this point, Garrett is kind of, you know, fidgeting around in his seat a little bit. He's getting kind of antsy, anxious, wants to know, you know, what kind of job they're talking about. And Fuse at the same time is already reaching for his blaster.
Well, you guys have followed me before. 20 million credits, you ready to follow me again?
Zed just kind of nods silently while the other 2 men stand up from their seats.
Good to know. So at this moment, I just poke my head out and see if there's anything out of the ordinary I can kind of see before we go out of here.
All right. Well, why don't we do a check for that? Do you want to do a listen or a? I guess it would be.
Be a spot.
Yeah, do that. Your choice, either a spot or a listen check. Do you have skill ranks in any of them?
I have it in neither, so I'd rather do spot for now.
Okay. Well, spot since it's a wisdom skill, and you can use it untrained. So you're gonna roll a d20 and then add your wisdom modifier.
Okay, 1d20.
And for those of you guys watching, since this game in Vassal is built around the Star Wars miniatures game, and the only die that is required to play that game is a d20, we aren't using this program to simulate our die rolls. Actually, Tarno, what do you use? You're using Wizards website?
Yeah, wizards.com/dnd/dice/dice.
So we are using a bit of the honor system. But as I said in my last video, there's really no reason to fib about your dice, your roll results, because even if you roll poorly, that really just means interesting things are going to happen.
So I rolled a 10 plus my wisdom is 11.
All right. You hear everything sounds normal up at the front of the cantina. You don't hear anything coming from behind the wall where Fuse and Garrett are sitting. It sounds you don't hear any scuffling or anything. It's too noisy to hear if people are talking through the wall. But other than that, you also notice the Trandoshans don't really seem to be paying much attention to what's going on, but one of them keeps glancing at you every minute or so, just to make sure, just to, I guess, keep tabs on where you are, make sure you're still there.
Okay, well, at this moment, I kind of say to my guys, right, let's go. We won't go in the same way that they went in. Let's see if we can go out around the back.
All right. So now what we're going to do, since you're not in combat, the gameplay kind of flows as quickly or as slowly as you want it to when you're out of combat. So if you want to just pick up your guy and move him to basically the drag and drop and drop and drop, kind of like the route that he's going to take. And if anything important happens, or if you want to stop and roll another check at any point, just stop and leave your guy there, or I'll let you know if something happens.
Okay. So, before we go out, I say to Garrett, Garrett, I need you to stay at the bar, keep an eye on things this end. Anything happens, ring me up on my comm link.
Alright, he agrees. So, go ahead.
So now do I just plot the course of my guy?
Yeah, so Garrett, he'll leave. Do you want him to head out before you or follow you out?
I want Garrett to go out first.
Alright, so Garrett
just
steps
kind of
out.
hang around by the bar area.
He steps out, kind of comes up to here. He kind of looks at you and nods. Everything pretty much looks normal. Back. And that's where he is.
Okay, with that, it's when I decide to come out with Fuse and Zed.
Okay. And where are you moving to?
There.
We'll just assume they're moving with you at this time, and then when you come to a stop, I'll catch them up to you.
So up. I'm not moving there just yet, but up by here, that's a curtain, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I can go out that way.
You can.
Alright, so I pretty much walk through, stare at like the three people sitting here, give them like the eye, and just pretty much walk through with Zed and Fuse to about here.
Why don't you, as you're... Yep, perfect. I was going to move you back there. As you're there, why don't you roll an intimidate check?
Okay, so intimidate, whereabouts is that? That's there. So because I've got 4 ranks in it, what does that do?
Okay, so you have 4 ranks in intimidate, and why don't you tell me what is the key ability for intimidate?
Charisma?
And your charisma modifier is?
3?
Okay, so you take your charisma modifier of 3, you add the number of ranks that you have, which is 4, so it gives you a total of 7. So you're going to roll a d20 and add 7.
I got 14.
Alright. Luckily for you, Zed and Fuse are with you, so they get to roll intimidate checks also. So let me take care of them.
Okay.
Alright. Zed looked very intimidating, so the three cantina goers, they watch you walk through, but they don't say anything.
Okay.
So go ahead and continue.
So then we come up to here.
Actually, right as you get to the top of the steps, so right here,
Okay.
you see a Bith underneath this land speeder, kind of working on it. He's clearly an engineer doing some sort of maintenance work on the underside of the land speeder.
Okay. Well, I pretty much turn to Fuse, and if say I whispered to Fuse, would the Biff be able to hear me?
No, he's using some sort of electronic, like ion torch or something. Either welding or cutting through metal, making lots of noise underneath there.
Okay. Well, I turn around and whisper to Fuse like, okay. I need you to keep this guy preoccupied and help him whatever he needs doing. Me and Ted will check this out.
Alright.
So with that, we kind of walk past and leave Fuse to kind of keep him occupied so he doesn't come investigating.
Alright, so you and Zed start moving around the back of the building?
Yep, so we come to about here.
Alright, hold there. Let me just do a quick roll for Fuse to see if he can bluff his way into helping this guy. Fuse, he gets down on a knee and is kind of like, hey buddy, do you need any help with that? And the Duros looks back at him. Clearly he speaks basic, so he understood what Fuse was saying, but he doesn't respond and just kind of goes back to work, ignoring Fuse.
Right.
And Fuse kind of looks at you and shrugs like, what should I do?
Okay, so at this point, is he going to be able to hear me if I talk to him, or do we have to go back?
At this range, I guess you could either call him on your comm link, or you could go back and talk to him in person if you want.
Okay, I say, Zed, stay here, keep looking down this sort of alleyway and see if anything comes up. I've just got to talk to Fuse.
Zed agrees.
So I come back and I'm like, so what happened?
He looks at you and goes, man, he just gave me the cold shoulder.
I kind of like put my hand in my face and say, you know what, come with us. We ain't got time for this.
Alright. The Durovs just absolutely paid you no attention at all.
So I then come back with Fuse. Right, so can I now do another spot check and see if I can see anything out of the ordinary down this hallway?
Yep. Go ahead and roll it. Again, plus your wisdom modifier, so +1, right?
Yeah.
And
+1.
you can have them do it also if you feel like your result wasn't good enough.
So while we're on this, what class is a good roll?
That's the thing. You don't actually know that. Generally speaking, anything that's like 12, 13, or higher is a good roll. But if someone is attempting to stay hidden, or like if you roll a whisper check and the person you're trying to listen to is purposefully whispering, that would increase the difficulty of the roll and require you to roll usually above a 15, like in the 17, 18 range.
Right.
But for extremely difficult things, there are times where you would actually have to roll above a 20 or even a 25, and that is possible because of the modifiers.
Right. Okay, so my spot check was 16.
Okay, you see two Duros just kind of hanging out underneath this tarp here. Not really doing anything, just kind of talking to each other, looking out across the desert.
Is that it?
That's it. As far as personnel goes, you can see plenty of junk stacked up along the back of the building. It looks very, very difficult if you were to climb over the junk, and it would definitely make a lot of noise. But other than that, you see nothing out in the desert. A couple womp rats, running around, but nothing nearby. Nothing that would pose a threat.
Okay, so we pretty much decide just to walk past them. They don't seem to be much trouble, so we come down to about here.
Okay, they paid absolutely no attention to you.
Great. So now I move up to here and see if I can see anything in this room.
Alright, do another spot check.
Ah, 5.
Nope, the room looks pretty dark. You can't see anything inside.
Okay. So I pretty much turn back to Zed and Fuse and say, looks clear, Zed go in first, me and Fuse will just keep a lookout here for a second.
Alright, so Zed steps up. Zed enters the room. Yeah, let me do something real quick. Alright, you hear a loud crash, and you hear Zed go, oof!
So at this moment, me and Fuse both run to the door and see what's going on.
Alright, as you approach the door, actually roll... No, hold on. Actually, yeah, at this point, roll... Why don't you do an initiative roll for me? Because you are now technically in combat.
So that's 1d20 plus my initiative modifier, right?
Yep.
16.
Alright, you guys are actually pretty lucky. So, you're going to go first, followed by Fuse, followed by Zed, followed by this guy.
Right.
Who is standing here and actually caught Zed off guard and sent him crashing into a pile of power converters.
Okay. So, it's, how far can I move and still shoot?
So you can move up to your full movement speed and then shoot. So 5 spaces and then an attack. Or you can shoot and then move.
Okay, well, if I move diagonally, back one, down one, will I still be able to shoot him because of the line of sight?
Yes.
Okay, so I move back here into what I assume's some junk, cover.
Okay.
Yep. And then I'm gonna try and get a shot off.
Alright, so go ahead and roll a d20, and you're going to add your attack bonus. I'm guessing you're attacking with your heavy blaster.
Indeed.
Okay.
I get +3. $17.
All right, you hit. So I believe, what's your heavy blaster's damage?
3d8.
All right, so go ahead and roll 3d8.
$9.
All right, so you hit him. You got a good torso shot on him, and he stumbles a bit, but he's still standing.
Damn.
At this moment, Fuse pulls his blaster. He also has a heavy blaster. He comes up, he goes 1, 2, 3. He stops in the doorway. And he also fires at that guy. And Fuse... Fuse also rolled a 17, so he hit. He does 3d8. And only did 5 damage.
Well done, Fuse. What do I pay you for?
So that was a shot to the arm. So the bandit takes the hit in the arm. He actually drops his blaster. And you can tell he's severely wounded, but he's still standing.
Right. So at this point, can I signal to Zed to do something, or because it's his turn, I can't do anything?
You can. You don't have a perfect line of sight of him, and he's still standing up from his tumble. But what are you trying to do to him?
So I kind of call out and say, Zed, try and knock this guy over.
Alright, so Zed, gets up, steadies himself, and he actually charges at the bandit unarmed. And because he charged, he gets a +2 bonus on his attack, but he is fighting unarmed. So let's see what he gets. A 19.
Oof.
So he hits that guy pretty hard. Let's see how much damage he actually does. Alright, he does 4 damage, which knocks the guy unconscious.
Okay.
So the bandit's knocked up against this corner. Pretty much laying there, knocked out cold, but he's not dead.
Alright, so me and Fuse then enter. And I kind of looked at him and go, what the hell happened?
He looks at you with a blank stare on his face, kind of rolls his eyes. Doesn't say anything.
Alright. Did you kill him?
Zed shakes his head negatively.
Good. Right. You've done enough damage for one day. Keep an eye on him, will you?
So Zed nods at you and takes a seat on a stack of power converters.
Alright, I look at Fuse and kind of signal him to come with me as we kind of look through these curtains just to see what's through the other side.
Okay. Alright, as you actually so you're gonna peel through the curtains. Do you still have your blaster in hand?
Yeah.
Okay. Good, because as you peel back the curtains, you see nothing. You see a door. There's a door in front of you leading into the back room of the cantina, but you don't see anything else. There's a small alley. I'm sorry. I'll just describe the area because it's kind of hard to tell on the map. The little room that you're in is actually a separate small structure from the cantina. So to the left and to the right are very tight alleys that are packed with junk, with a little walkway connecting your building to the back room of the cantina.
So first thing I do is I search, see if there's anything else up on these junk piles. I mean, that guy had to come from somewhere. So I roll a spot check.
You actually don't even have to. The room is small enough to know that there's no one else in the room. There also doesn't appear to be anything of value to you in the room. It's mostly junk, scrap, just things that were probably salvaged to hold on to for spare parts or to be welded into something else.
Okay. So now I kind of walk forward to this door and kind of like stop.
All right, you can see there's a panel on the right side that has buttons to both open and close the door, but no locking mechanism.
Okay, so first thing I do is see if I can actually hear anything on the other side of this door.
All right, go ahead and roll a listen check then.
Right, listen. So, what skills listen? Wisdom, so 1. I get a 20.
Now, did you roll a 20 or did you result in a 20? If
Wait, what do you mean?
So
I got 19 plus the 1.
okay, so the reason I ask is because when you roll a natural 20 is what it's called. That's what's used to determine criticals. For instance, if you were fighting, and so your base attack bonus is a +3, or your attack bonus for that weapon is a +3, correct?
Yeah.
So if you were to roll a 17, your total would be 20. However, that's not a critical because you rolled a 17. Make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so your total on the listen check is 20, which is really good, but it wasn't a critical because you didn't roll a 20.
God damn it.
But the 20 is still good enough to hear. You can definitely hear voices inside, and one of them sounds distinctively like the one of the bandits that walk past your room. You're unclear about the other voices, but you can tell that there are multiple people inside, at least 3.
Okay. So at this point, I turn around and say, I think this is where the guys were, to both Fuse and Zed. And then I open up my comlink and try and hail Garrett.
Alright, what do you want to say to Garrett?
So first thing I say is, how are you enjoying your liquor?
He calls back and says, tastes good, but the glasses could be cleaned.
Nice for some. Anyway, so do you remember where those 2 guys headed?
He responds, sure do. Haven't seen a soul come in or out since.
Okay, good. Keep an eye on those Trandoshans, and if they don't follow you in, just walk in there. Trust me.
Alright, now this could get interesting. Because you don't see what's going on with him. But, okay, go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead. What were you going to do next?
So what I was going to do was, because by the sounds of it, I can clearly hear, like, mumbles, as it were.
Not only that,
So
you can hear some people raising their voices at each other, but you still can't tell what they're saying.
Okay, so I've told them to go in, be careful, and I'll pretty much, could I have told him where to set up? Like, is that possible or not?
You can tell him where to set up to the best of your... I mean, obviously you don't have...
Like, obviously, I don't have the layout, but
right.
I can, like...
You can give him general directions.
Yeah. So my general directions are, try and stay close enough to the entrance without being seen, but enough to where you can kind of gather what's going on.
Alright, and in the time it takes you to say all that, he calls you back and says, boss, we have a slight problem. He says there's
brilliant.
actually a Duros cantina guard standing next to the door leading into the back room.
Alright, so I say to him, come on Garrett, use some of that charm you have. Get past that door.
Alright, let me make a roll. Alright, so Garrett, being a tech genius as he is, accidentally since he's so nervous, accidentally left his comlink on, and from the alley you're able to hear him return to the bar, purchase a drink, and offer it to the Bith, which you can only assume he added a small wink as he handed the Bith a drink, and then you hear the opening and closing of a door, which you could only assume was him entering the back room. Then he calls you. You hear him fumbling around with the comm link, and he shouts or murmurs, I guess, an expletive under his breath as he realized what had just happened, and tells you, "I don't ever want to hear you speak of this again, but I'm in."
Don't worry, bring your girlfriend back to the ship.
He murmurs, "I hate you."
Oh no. Just stay out of sight, will ya?
Alright, so he's through that door. He says, "Boss, there's a second door leading into the actual storage room."
So I say, is it locked?
He tampers with it or examines it and says, "No, it's not locked." Doesn't appear to be locked.
So I kind of say, yeah, Garrett, go on through. Just try and be quiet, will ya?
He says, "Alright." Almost immediately after, roll a listen check. Again.
Okay. 7.
Alright. You don't hear anything. You can no longer hear the voices inside.
So first things first, to try and hail him on his comlink.
And what do you say?
I say, hello.
You don't hear anything for a while, and then a couple seconds later, maybe about 20-30 seconds later, a voice comes back over the comlink that you do not recognize saying, "Who's this?"
Ah, damn. I just closed the comlink down.
Alright.
I turn to Fuse and say, Garrett's gone and done it again. Got your blaster ready?
Fuse looks almost too excited. He goes, "Hells yeah, boss," and he steps up behind you. Zed kind of looks at you, catches your eye. You guys make eye contact, and he nods over at the unconscious thug, and kind of gives you the look like, "Now, what should I do?"
He's no use to anyone. Kill him.
Zed looks at you and tilts his head to the side, walks over and picks up the thug and throws him out into the sand.
Well, gentlemen, let's get this started. And I open up the door.